Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Well, I missed you all last Shabbat, but I heard some real good things about your service, and I'm glad that you had a great service and a great time together. Mary Louise and I did as well as we were worshiping with Kol Simcha in Gainesville, and had a very blessed time there, as well as being able to go down and participate in Rabbi Neil Lash's memorial service. As you see on the screen, our parsha today is Metzorah, and the scriptures are listed there. I encourage you, if you have not already done so, to read that parsha and study it. We're not going to talk about it today because we do have our final session of the Messianic Life series. So we move forward into that, and I would have to say that this has been a tremendous series, and kind of hate to have it end. Maybe we could get Kevin to write some more chapters, but this is certainly the climax chapter, and walking in the Spirit is the climax for us. Everything which we have studied up to this point, I think, has led the way to really understand and to actually walk in the Spirit. As we went through our study, we first considered a disciple. What is a disciple? Then we ask ourselves the question, am I a disciple? And then the question, am I making disciples? Sanctification was our next consideration. We asked the question, am I growing in my walk with Yeshua? Can I see a positive change in my life day to day and week to week? Am I becoming more like Him? We then considered integrity. Integrity is the characteristic which keeps us on the right path, helping us to avoid compromise. Then came perseverance, the character trait which empowers us to continue to follow that which has been imparted into our spiritual lives. The next chapter, Living by the Word, was a summation of all these previous characteristics of a follower of Yeshua. And it was a reminder of what we have learned and what we have accepted as authority for our lives. And then today, we consider the absolutely, undeniably most important part of a successful life as a disciple of Yeshua, walking in the Spirit. If I look out at this group before me here today, I know most all of you. I know all of you but one, really. And most all of us are far along the path of understanding. We're far along commitment in our walk with our Messiah. But it is not always as easy as it is when it appears written on paper. We are human beings. We have what they call feet of clay, as the saying goes, and we're not perfect in our walk. But Adonai has provided a way for us to overcome our human tendencies, to overcome that which we call the flesh. And it is by a supernatural means, something which is above the natural means of our human lives. Everything else which we have considered up to this point has to do with human understanding. If we believe that we can do it ourselves, we have already set ourselves up for failure. The only way that we can be successful in our walk with is, with God's direct help in our lives, the guidance which comes from His Ruach HaKodesh, His Holy Spirit. We have sometimes become accustomed to our fleshly way of doing things. And many times, even in the lives of believers, it is in opposition to the way in which Yeshua is leading us. Our flesh can still have a very large grip on us, even though we have been trusting and following Yeshua for many years. Shaul said, "However, you are not in the flesh, but in the Ruach, if indeed the Ruach Elohim dwells in you," if the Spirit of God dwells in you. And the truth is that the Spirit of God does dwell in us if we have trusted Yeshua as our Messiah. The second half of this verse, which we just read, makes it very clear. Now, if anyone does not have the Ruach of Messiah, he does not belong to Him. That's very clear. We receive the Spirit when we trust Yeshua. We have it now, but we don't always allow the Spirit of God to influence our lives. To walk in the Spirit, we must turn over our life to Adonai at another level. Have you ever thought about that? It's another level above our acceptance of Yeshua. Yes, we got it all when we accepted Him, but if we didn't turn our life over totally, the Holy Spirit cannot work completely in our lives. So it's the decision to allow His Spirit to have full sway in our wishes and in our desires and in our life's decisions. It's about relinquishing control, about relinquishing our will to His Spirit, and let Adonai have control of our life. And this is a deliberate, conscious act. And it's something that we have to do day by day. You can't just do it once because you forget and you go back into your old ways. So you do this day by day, hour by hour, really. It won't just happen. We have to surrender our will. So walking in the Spirit is much more than praying, much more than seeing life through spiritual eyes, and much more than having a good worship life. Indeed, it is all those things. But we can do all of those things without being fully surrendered. That's the truth of it. And so we really have to surrender ourselves. We have to live our lives being led by the Spirit, which is living under the influence of the Holy Spirit. And it is directly contrary to walking in the flesh. There is animosity between the flesh and the Spirit. But having a heart of flesh is from God. Then I will give them one heart. I will put a new spirit within them. I will remove the heart of stone from their flesh and give them a heart of flesh. Here we hear Ezekiel speaking Adonai's words about what He will do for Israel and for everyone through the new covenant. That's what that's all about. This heart of flesh was prophesied by Moses even before Israel entered into the promised land. Also, Adonai your God will circumcise your heart and the heart of your descendants to love Adonai your God with all your heart and with all your soul, in order that you may live. If we have trusted Yeshua, we have circumcised hearts already. God's Spirit has circumcised our hearts. And this changes us and enables us to walk in the Spirit. But again, in many of our lives, this happened years ago. We may have been walking with the Lord, but have not fully submitted to Him. But to walk in the Spirit, we must submit to the Spirit. And we would also have to say that walking in the Spirit does not take away, it does not change our calling to walk in Torah, to walk after the guidelines and examples which Adonai placed in written words through those whom He inspired to write the Scriptures. And we should not be misled by Shaul's words in Galatians. But if you are led by the Ruach, you are not under law. And I think we all understand that. He's not saying that the law, Torah, is not good, nor it's not to be a part of our walk with Adonai. He is saying that we cannot be made righteous by Torah keeping. There is no salvation in Torah keeping. And if we're led by the Ruach, if we're led by the Spirit, our hearts have already been circumcised because we have trusted in Yeshua. We are not trying to keep law for righteousness, but we are trying to keep it, but as a natural part of the obedience of walking in the Spirit. That's a part of it as well. The flesh is our natural will. It's our natural personality. It's our desires which seek to gratify the desires of our flesh. And as human beings, we're composed of a body, a soul, and a spirit. Our body is our physical part. Our soul is our personality, our wishes, and our desires. And our spirit is the spark from Adonai which gives us life. Our spirit allows our body to continue living. And when the spirit leaves the body, we are no longer a living being. We are no longer a nefesh kaya, a living soul. So when we speak about our flesh, we're not speaking about our actual physical flesh, but about the fleshly desires of our soul. And when we trust Yeshua, Adonai's Spirit enters and joins with our spirit and gives us the potential to walk in the Spirit of God. But our soul, our flesh, still wants to have its own way. We still have control over our actions. We still have control over them, and our flesh can continue to manifest itself if we do not submit to God's Spirit. You all read this, and I know you have read what Shaul said in Galatians about the works of the flesh. They are listed for us: sexual immorality, impurity, indecency, idolatry, witchcraft, hostility, strife, jealousy, rage, selfish ambition, dissension, factions, envy, drunkenness, and carousing. And that's not all of them. One that I noticed that's not listed is Lashon Hara. You all know what that is. Lashon Hara, the evil tongue, is every much a work of the flesh as these which we just read. But we don't stop to think that our flesh is working in opposition to God's Spirit when we are jealous of someone, when we envy someone, or when we speak ill of someone. John said, "For everything in the world, the desire of the flesh, the desire of the eyes, and the boasting of life is not from the Father, but from the world. And these works of the flesh from the world are the fruit of the flesh." And when we do these things, we're in opposition to Torah. Torah, which teaches us Adonai's way. And his way causes good fruit to grow in our lives. The fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And so we need to be well aware that the Spirit and Torah are not adversaries. They're not adversaries, but they are partners which work together against the works of the flesh. The Torah shows us the way, and the Spirit makes it possible for us to follow the way. And I don't think we can emphasize that enough. That is the most important thing for us to understand, is that the Torah shows us the way, and the Spirit makes us possible to be able to follow the way. So the Spirit of God teaches us a new way to walk. As we recognize and consciously begin to follow the ways of Torah, His Spirit gently guides us away from our old way. And this change occurs naturally once we make a decision to submit our will to His. A question for all of us: do we feel guilt when we walk in the flesh? Do you nod your head to that? If we have trusted Yeshua, we do feel guilt. And I think that guilt is the gentle nudge which leads us into His higher ways. It's saying, leave those ways behind, submit yourself to me. But also don't think about this. Don't think that you have conquered the flesh and that you no longer need to worry about the flesh bothering you. Our flesh is always there under the surface, and it will reassert itself if we allow it. John also said, "The one who keeps His commandments abides in God, and God in him." We know that He abides in us by this, by the Spirit He has given us. So He has given us His Spirit, and it abides in us. We must allow Adonai's Spirit to have His way. Commit yourselves to consider this daily, minute by minute if necessary. Allow Adonai's Spirit to have His way. We know that if we have trusted Yeshua, that He's there already. But I encourage you, I encourage myself to make a conscious decision to allow Him to lead and to guide each of us rather than following our own understanding. That's a rut we get in. We stay in that same rut, and we make our own decisions without considering what the Spirit is saying to us. Shaul was primarily our teacher today, and I think we know that he had a lot of experience in these things, and he is amply qualified to advise us about this. So let's each one of us agree with Shaul and understand this. If we live by the Ruach, let us also walk by the Ruach. Shabbat Shalom. You stand and receive the Birkat HaKohanim. Adonai bless you and keep you. Adonai make his face to shine upon you and show you his favor. Adonai lift up his face toward you and give you peace. Yevarekaka Adonai vayishmareka. Yair Adonai panav eleika vekuneika. Yisah Adonai panav eleika veyasim leka. Shalom. In the name of the Sar Shalom, the Prince of Peace, you receive the name of Adonai upon you today in the name of Yeshua, our Messiah. Amen. Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shalom, Shabbat, Shalom, Shabbat, Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shalom.